Hey friends, buckle up for a new episode of Soul Dive. You can join Christina King and myself, Chris McCann. If the time's come for you to begin or even accelerate your inner exploration, this show might be for you. Each week, we explore the meaning of life, discover what our purpose is, or just exploring how to be happy. Soul Dive has got you covered. So join us and our guests, of course, and listen to insightful stories about where they've been and perhaps get help navigating your own path. Together, we will soul dive into the deep end of consciousness.
Hi, Chris.
Hello, Christina. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm well. I'm very well. Thanks for asking. It's great to be here again.
Definitely. And today I'm actually very excited. Well, I'm always excited, but especially today because it's someone from my real life. This is my best friend, Nat. And she is joining us from Singapore. I met her when I lived in Korea, and she's always lived in Singapore. And we met through K-pop. And we've been friends ever since for a decade. Feels like a hell of a lot longer in good and bad ways.
Hey.
And she's here today. And I kind of want to put like a little bit of praise on her because she's been for a decade through it all with me spiritually. She has been my biggest fan, and she's been the first person to ever just never doubt me. And not that I'm saying anybody's doubted me outright, but like she's always believed in me. Even when I didn't believe in the stuff that I do myself, she's always been down. She has been my guinea pig. I think one of the first significant spirits that came through is her dad. I remember that. I still remember that night in Seoul many, many years ago. I still lived in my apartment in Hongdae, which that means it was before 2014 for sure. I'm just very thankful that she's always believed in me. And so when I haven't believed in myself, I can always know in my heart that someone does. Someone's my big fan, and it's her. So here she is. I bring her in today to you, Chris, and to all the listeners. And I'm very curious to see what happens today. I read her all the time, actually. So,
All right. Well, hello, Natasha.
Hi.
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too.
All right. We'll just pull the ripcord here. So I saw you slightly like a teenager, maybe walking in a dark, what felt like a museum or an art installation, but the lights were out. And what I saw hanging in front of you was like a mobile you would hang over a children's crib. But there were many of them, and they were super silver, glittery, like stars and moons and planets and all of those things. But the sense I'm getting from you is awe and wonder and marvel at the installation itself. So now it's a little bit like you as a young girl, and you're pointing and someone's holding your right hand, and all I see are trousers. So I'm assuming it's a father or a grandfather type. Childlike wonder and looking up. So perhaps you're looking for inspiration or awe or a sense of your place in the universe. And it's to remember what that was like as a young girl, where everything was possible and you're supported and held. It's very masculine energy. I don't see like a female or like a mom or a grandmother. There's a strong male presence on your right, not now, but then. And how you used to view everything as being possible, and maybe some of that has been lost. And all I'm hearing is look up, look up, look up. And as a way to rekindle some of what's been lost.
So I'll let you sit on that for a minute because I know exactly what that means as well because of my close relationship with her. And you can say that in a minute. But I do want to say that I saw your dad. By the way, Chris, her dad has passed. So I saw your dad, who I frequently see, but I saw him very clear when I went in your records today. And I saw him as kind of a big, from above, like a big, almost like larger than life, godlike figure. And he had this fabric and it was like light green, but it had like a cultural significance. And I saw him smile and put the light green fabric over the scene, like the whole earth, almost like your world. So I saw that. And then I saw you. I don't know if you guys have these in Singapore, but do you guys have storage lockers where it might be storage lockers, and they open from the bottom. They roll up.
I don't think
the door like a garage. Types.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, like a garage door, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I saw you kind of like all these storage lockers, and it was almost like you were picking up a door and peeking inside and then closing it, and then peeking in the next one and closing it. And I'm starting to understand a little bit what this means. And it has to do with worthiness. Like you're worthy of what's behind the doors. So if you're curious as to this way or that way or this way, you can have it all. And you can actually indulge your curiosity and actually try something or do something and know that you are worthy.
Mm.
So is there anything you'd like to respond with? If you want, you can explain anything that was meaningful to you, or, I mean, if you'd rather keep it to yourself and just ask a question about what we've talked about or something different, the floor is yours.
Well, I do understand the whole idea of feeling awe and looking for inspiration and the storage lockers, actually, because there's always been a lot that I've wanted to try in my life that I've always second guessed myself out of doing. And you know that. But yeah, for now, that's the only thing that's going in through my head. But you're right about the wordiness too.
So what's unique about Singapore, and I haven't been there yet.
Oh my God, you have to go.
It's on, yeah. Uh-huh. Is the art installations.
Yeah.
And so I'm seeing like tall, like electrical lit things. And just take your dad with you. Right.
He goes with me wherever.
Yeah. But maybe just like a dad and daughter date night and go out to, it feels like it's, so nature, of course, but this feels very much like man-made or human-made art that's divinely inspired. And for you to go surround yourself with that and feel your father and feel the creative process that the artists or the other folks have gone through and fill yourself up with that energetically. Do you know how to do that?
No, but I mean, no. I've always liked looking at art. I like to, my son's very different from me. He likes to pass through everything. I like to stop and read everything that comes beneath the painting or a sculpture, because I want to know where or how they did what they did. Yeah.
And this feels outdoors too, by the way, right? So I'm what I'm sensing is like being outdoors is not paramount, but it would be important. And to leave your son behind for this.
Not a problem.
and to stop and give yourself time to just breathe with what you may find to be inspiring, or breathe with what you feel energetically. And you just relax into it and allow for that energy to transmit to you. And you might start to feel like a little, I'm just getting like a low level, like tingle, right? And then when that drops in, say thank you, right? And you can ask questions. Say, what's to be learned here, right? Or what are you trying to communicate? And there's no wrong answer. But each encounter that you have on this date night will, it's like you're planting little seeds all over the place for yourself. It's really cool. Okay, that feels pretty complete. Yes.
I'm going to chime in here.
Mm-hmm.
And as he was starting to talk, I felt, and I know this for a fact, but I feel it right now about your inner artist kind of coming out of it. And I think it isn't to be seen, and it isn't to be vulnerable. It's to express is what I'm getting. So it's like the vulnerability that you fear is actually not the case. Like, it's not what it is if you create it. It's more about the expression. But I also see like a pressure cooker with the steam. It's like art is the steam. It like releases the steam from your life. While it can't alleviate all your pressure, it can definitely help. That's for sure. And I saw you, and you are going to die when I say this. And I'm kind of dying too, because I would not peg you as somebody who would do this. But I see you kind of like on a slam poetry night up at the mic. Yeah, I knew you would laugh. Up at the mic and kind of freelance slam poetryness going on. And I laugh. I mean, I know that we both know your human personality, but this is like soul level shit that we do here. So on a soul level, that would actually really resonate with your soul. Now, could we get the stubborn human in you dragged up to the mic to do this? I mean, I don't even know if it's a requirement, but all I know is that this would be a very optimal thing for you. Something to think about.
Slowing your breathing. How do you cope with your anxiety?
Meds and breathing. I used to write poetry, but only when I was upset, because I needed to. So a lot of what I used to write was never very happy stuff. It was just to get out whatever was messing with my head or putting me back in that dark hole again.
Do you believe that it always has to be happy?
No. I occasionally do write happier stuff, but most of it is just because I can't let a lot of it out at home. So my only outlet was to put everything out on paper, because at least then I could verbalize my thoughts a little bit, and it didn't feel like a cyclone in my head.
And I'm sure there's a way to marry that to your art.
How do you mean?
Backing up a little bit, when you and Christina were talking, I felt like your heart rate, and I felt where it was, and I was like, okay, there's a little bit of anxious, and what I heard was slow your breathing. Just a good exhale, like, feels really good sometimes. And giving yourself, even if it's just a minute, like every hour, just to just relax into your screen on your computer. I know it's not always possible at a human level, but it feels like there's just some frustration and some tension and some anxiety that just builds up, which makes sense about the museum on the front end and you having a place to be able to express and get that out. And of course, there's nothing wrong with having thoughts that aren't necessarily happy, right? We're human, and we're not designed that way. But our relationship to what's on the other side is what we can modify. Would you be willing to share an example of something that causes anxiety?
Well, currently, Christina knows where I'm going with this. I think currently my mother is a big cause of anxiety, because she's always been very clingy and very smothering. I'm an only child. So when dad passed, I was her whole world, and my son is an only child. So now he's her whole world, but she sticks a lot to the older generation way of doing things, which doesn't really gel with his style of doing things. And so I'm always having to play middleman and middle person and try to settle their arguments. And I think in part it frustrates her, because he comes to me more than he does her, even though she's with him more of the time. And I think that, coupled with her age and some health issues she's having, I feel like lately she's been spiraling a fair bit. And she's been lashing out a lot, and sometimes her thoughts are fairly illogical. And being at home, sometimes it feels, to use Christina's analogy, it feels like being in a pressure cooker, because everything's coming at me from all angles. Mm-hmm. And where my son is old enough now for me to be a bit more open with him about things. In the past, it was hard not being able to show any emotion, any negative emotions at home, because I didn't want to worry him and I didn't want to upset her. But yeah, she's always been a worry of mine. She still is. And I get the feeling that she's going to be a bit more of a worry as she ages, with the way her mind works, I think.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. I get a sense that she's like right here, right? Like if you were just to like look out the door, she's like right there, like waiting for you. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a lot. And your son is like 14, 15? What are we?
Yeah.
Okay.
14.
All right. So when you talk to him about his grandmother, mm-hmm. How do you, or do you begin to explain some of what she's going through to him?
I try to tell him that, one is that with her age, she's very set in her ways. So rather than butting with her head on, you've got to find a way around it, or just certain things that have to be done either way. Then just do it, and then there won't be any arguments. And certain things that might be unfair, then he comes to me, and then I talk to her about it. And I've been very open with him about my own issues with anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried to tell him or explain to him that maybe that's what she might be going through as well, and to try to be a bit more understanding of her reactions the way he was with me.
Okay. And so then as a single parent,
Mm-hmm.
And really you're just trying to keep Tuesday on track to turn into Wednesday, on track to turn into Thursday. Let's get to Friday. There's an opportunity to, you might be able to hear my 14-year-old yelling on his video games in the backdrop, by the way. So I apologize if that's the case. There's an opportunity for you to redefine the working relationship between the three of you. She's got her own work to do, your mother. You have your own work to do. And your son has his own work to do. Your son's going to be fine, kind of no matter what. I don't see him as being really needy in the situation. This is between you and your mother. And both of these folks are teachers for you and working on mastery. And how do you put a stake in the sand? How do you define, I'm Natasha, and this is what's important to me? And you've sacrificed yourself this way, and then work in other ways. But now we get to work on preserving self. What I love about those two words is that preserving, if we just break it up a little bit to two chunks, we're pre-serving self. So I think I've probably said this ad nauseum to myself, but we put on our own oxygen mask first before we attempt to assist other people. And so I don't want to use the word rituals, but what 2 or 3 things can you begin to do on a daily basis, which is not backward looking, which isn't forward looking, but is here and now and present for you to preserve yourself? Looking at fundamentals, nothing crazy. Breathing is certainly one. When's the last time you wrote?
I can't remember.
Okay. Can you walk me through your daily routine?
On a work day, I'm up at about 6:30, and then I leave home about 7. I'm at work depending on which day it is, but my latest is I finish work at 6:30 in the evening, and then I come home. Usually, well, sometimes it's step in the door and deal with an argument at home. And then I go into my room and I kind of decompress for like an hour. I play a game on my phone or something, and then I shower and maybe have dinner, maybe not. And then if I have work to do, I'm doing work, or I'm watching Netflix with my son until he goes to bed, which is about 11. And then it's just me either doing work, or I will stubbornly stay up and watch Netflix or something until 1 in the morning before I go to sleep, because that's the only quiet time I have at home.
And do you
It's
have
the
a
only
hard
time
time?
Sorry?
You have a hard time falling asleep?
Uh, Sometimes there are a few, well, not many, rare occasions where I know I'm tired as hell, but I can toss and turn for hours and nothing comes. And then when you wake up in the morning, you know you slept, but it feels like you haven't slept.
Yes, because you are working, right?
Yeah. But usually it's just my stubbornness, but that's the only time the house is quiet and the house is mine. Because in the apartment, my only sanctuary is my room. So I'm in my room a lot. I mean, my door's open, so my son can come in anytime he needs. But it's that time from about 11 to 1 is when the whole house is quiet and it's just me. And I'm a bit reluctant to give that up. I think that's why I push my bedtime so late. And that's why I run on 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night.
Mm. Yeah, that doesn't scale. So can we cut into game time by 5 minutes?
Sure.
Okay. All right. It'll be okay. Like Ninja Fruit's not going to go anywhere.
I don't play Ninja Fruit.
Fruit Ninja?
That too.
No.
Sure. Shows you how many games I have on my phone. I think what would be worthwhile for you to begin is we crawl, walk, run. All right. If we're trying to establish or give ourselves the benefit of a little space and time and taking care of ourselves first. We're not trying to repair the relationship with your mother as it relates to the relationship with your son. This is the relationship with yourself. And that quiet time from 11 to 1 is paramount, and it's very nice. But if you were to close your eyes and breathe for a minute during game time, you still have your phone because we'll find an app for you that'll help you do that. And then open up like the notes app and write like about whatever nonsensical thing comes into your brain. Whatever thoughts appear. We're not trying to control or eliminate thoughts. We're just trying to give yourself a little space to breathe and allow yourself to sink in. And then whatever comes to mind, no matter how logical or illogical it may be, you just note it in your notes app. And you can start to keep a running tally, like Monday or Sunday through Saturday, on different things that come to mind. And there's no judgment. It doesn't have to be any one thing, or it could be about work. It could be about your son. It could be about yourself. It could be something completely random, like glitter stars. But taking a couple of minutes out of game time and giving that back to yourself and not trying to solve everything else for everyone else, because your mom's on her own path, right? You've seen how your dad's turned out. He's just fine. He's there hanging out with you and ready to go on date night. And your son, I think, would really appreciate, particularly at this age, because you only have him at home for a couple more years, is you beginning to establish new ways of taking care of yourself. And I think any son, no matter how combative they may be at 14 or 15, wants nothing more than for their mom to be okay. And so we do it for yourself.
Okay. I'd probably take out my diary and write. I prefer holding a pencil and writing rather than typing.
Sure. But just for a minute.
Yeah.
That's it. Give yourself 60 seconds of that, 60 seconds of breathing first and then writing. And begin to exercise that muscle. I don't think it'll take too long for you to reestablish that time and way of you taking care of yourself. It's important that you're able to express, particularly now when things are challenging and your mother is beginning to enter her autumn, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
And allow her to go through that process, and you continue to take care of her. But even as a parent, what do we want? We want nothing more than for our children to be okay, right? And that's what she's going to look for from you. Wow, I talked a lot. Christina?
No, I want you to, because like of all the people in the world, I've probably done more spiritual stuff with her than anybody. So I was very curious.
Time 7:41. Time to take a puff.
Yes. Stop. So I was very interested in what you had to say. So everything that you touched on was, it hit home for me, for her as well. Like, I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, you can see we're exchanging these facial expressions to each other the whole time. Like, so we've been communicating on our own. You just haven't heard. Got to watch the YouTube for that shit.
Just exhale, lady. Exhale.
I feel like you've alleviated a lot of pressure on her already. And I know you always
behind the scenes here.
You'll always have pressure, but I can feel almost like a collective, like a little bit like taken out of the pressure cooker, and just that. I love that you've honed in on her supporting herself, because this is probably the most stubborn person I've ever met in my life. So
except for you.
Whatever. So I'm so glad that someone else is here, a third party, where it's like, you have to listen. So there's a lot of like, like I told you so, and a lot of the facial expressions going on while you were talking, Chris. So kudos to you.
I guess it works.
Well, now, Matt, is there anything else that you have a question about that particular topic? Do you want some more support within that area of mom, son, and you, or do you want to take this to another place?
We can move on. I'm okay so
far. Okay. So do you have a question?
Nothing. My mind's a bit blocked up at the moment. Nothing's coming to mind.
We'll check in and see if they have any.
I got something. How do you spend time with your son? What do you do with him?
Well, we Netflix a lot. Sometimes we when cinemas were still a lot more open, we used to do movies a fair bit, but it was always the three of us because we don't leave her at home. Marvel movies are a thing for my son and me. And when I can find stuff at museums, anything that's interactive, I have brought them with me so that we could go out for lunch and just to look. But like I said, he tends to zoom through the galleries where I tend to slow down, and he's always rushing me. Another thing we like doing is watching plays together. So I find stuff that I think might resonate with him, even if the topics are a bit heavy. But yeah, I mean, we like watching plays. And for a while, when everything was shut down, they put their plays, some of the companies put their plays online. So we were doing that too.
I keep seeing stars and outdoors as it relates to you. And I don't know if it's a metaphorical importance or if it's something that you did when you were younger, or if I'm just imagining all of it. But when I was looking for things to do with your son, it's like picnics, like grab his favorite food, right, from like his favorite, takeaway, spot or something, and just going and sitting somewhere and getting outside. Being outside feels really important right now for the two of you. And I know that your mother comes along. It's like, okay, mom, sure. And she's just, chirping and complaining and doing whatever she's doing. But it's like, okay, mom. And you smile and like, yep, but she's still going to come, right? She has no choice.
She feels upset if we do anything without her.
Can you get a sitter for her?
No, I mean, she's not. No, she's got.
What about a storage locker? Sorry. All right.
No, she feels very jealous and left out as it is. The one thing I've always wanted to do with my son was to go on a holiday with him, just him.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not possible. Because it's just not possible. Christina knows it's.
Christina, is it not possible?
Well, I mean, nothing is impossible, but in the current situation, that Nat feels as if it is impossible. And I have also put it out there. I'm like, why don't you just go without your mom, you know? And I did manage to get you to Seoul without your mother and your son once. Twice, you're right. Twice. But I think you paid for that.
Actually, 3 times.
By yourself?
Yeah.
I remember twice. Okay, well.
No. 2 were weekends and one was the long one where you had to work and I stayed in.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
What if your mom had like a perfect day, like if there's an activity that she was able to go do, what would that be?
I can tell you what my mom would say, that she would be fine with anything and that we could decide and she will just go along with it. As long as we're there, that's the thing.
Okay. But what would get her excited? Like what if you dropped her?
Snow.
Oh.
I would like to interrupt and here. So Singapore is no balls,
right,
all the time, and they always came to Seoul to visit me in freaking December, and they're like, we just want to see snow. We just want to see snow, and all they did, all 3 of them, when they got to Seoul, was just like repel the cold, just like, oh my God, it's so cold. I'm like, well, you came in December. What do you expect? So I just thought I'd put that little.
Hey, but I still went out and about.
It did snow. It did snow once. You guys went out and like, ah!
Yes, we did. It was a flurry.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's somewhere where you could take your mother and drop her off for a couple of hours, where there's an activity. It's like, okay, bye, mom. I'm thinking like, but it's like, and I've seen these types of places where you drop off your parents to go play with other parents. And
mom needs a social life. She has none.
Right. Yeah. It's like, I don't know like what that activity would be, but if you're able to think through what that would be and say, oh, we got a surprise for you and you're going to go do this, and just leave her there. It's the same thing as taking your son to, school. Like the first couple of days are hard, right? But eventually they stop crawling for mom. There are ways for you to liberate yourself a little bit and give yourself some space. Ask your dad.
Cooking class. Cooking class might be one. She does.
Oh, for sure.
Occasionally like to cook if I can find one. But that would, I could try and arrange a cooking class with her and my aunt that they could go for. And then.
Oh, you mean there's a sister that's still around?
Oh, yeah, there are a few, but she's only close to one.
Okay, we have no excuses. That's something that you give your mom for like a present and a gift.
That's what I was trying to say. It's like, let her go hang out with her. But doesn't your mom go to temple like every day?
No, she used to go to church every day. She's not Christian, but it used to give her a lot of peace. But the church that she goes to is closed for renovation, has been for quite a while. And then with COVID and everything.
Okay.
But you know her, she doesn't talk to anybody.
That's the thing, is if there was any kind of group.
Right. Well, so we've spitballed a couple of ideas for you to carve out some time for either yourself or carve out time for you and your son. And what you do with that is up to you. There's no right or wrong. But both sides are nothing more, nothing less than teachers for you. So what do you suppose would be like a lesson or some of the lessons that you're learning or working on if your son and your mother are both teachers?
Patience. A whole lot of patience. I would say in the past year, especially, I've learned to. You were right when you said I spend a lot of my time giving. So in the past year, I've learned to do more for myself, much to mom's displeasure, because I know she feels like she's lost control over me in that sense. I've learned I'm learning to step away from their arguments, and understand that, some things I can deal with and some things, well, I can't deal with everything. I can't deal with every little thing that they throw my way. And I cannot, for certain issues, I can be the go-to person, but I can't possibly be the go-to person for everything because I just don't have that much energy to deal with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just juggling that and learning. It's hard for me sometimes to not want to help or to not feel like I have to step in. And that's recently I've started learning how to go, you know what, if this is an issue between the two of you have to sort it out. You can't keep coming to me with it. If it's a disagreement with him, you have to settle it with him. Because I feel like she's always of late come to me about everything that he does that she doesn't like. And I think that has led to her losing control over him because he realizes that she has no pull. It always has to come to me first. So he'll just keep pushing. And so I have to step back, hands off, and go, you guys deal with it. Sort it out.
What if you were to step in and actually take control of it as opposed to delegating responsibility to your son and your mom?
I do. There have been times when I do, and I've stepped in and I've said, look, this is how it's gonna go. You need to do this and let him do this, and you need to listen to her, and this needs to get done. No arguments. The problem with that, and that's what I've always done actually up until recently. The problem with that is she does things her way anyway. She wants me to step in and make a decision, and sometimes I do, but then she undermines it.
Okay. Have you told her that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And she still does it?
Yep.
Okay. So we can't.
If there's anyone more stubborn than me and Christina, it's her.
Well, we can't keep doing the same thing, expecting different results, right? So we're back to taking care of ourselves. And your son's going to be just fine. And I think the more time you could spend with him one-on-one, the better it's going to be for both of you. Mm-hmm. For sure. And you need to find stuff for your mom to do and just drop her off. Take her there. How old is she?
67. She'll be 68.
Oh, God. This could go on for 20, 30 years. Matt.
I know. Okay. Thank you for that. That makes me feel so much better.
It's not supposed to. Yeah.
It doesn't.
It's supposed to be a stick in your eye.
2.
Yes.
Her birthday's coming in November. And her sister, the one that she's close to, her birthday's at the end of October. So if I were to, what I could do is send them both on a cooking class as a birthday present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. When you've had enough, you will put your foot down and put your stake in the sand and say, okay, I've had enough. Right. But talk to your dad. Your dad dealt with it. Right.
My dad was the one who calmed her down and centered her. She was happier and more open with him.
Of course.
But when he passed, she shut down. And it's been 30 years, not for lack of me trying to say, go out, meet people, if you meet someone else, by all means, be happy. But She doesn't. It's kind of like she locked herself away in her shell.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really not fair to you. Kind of selfish.
Well, she doesn't see it that way. She's never. If there have been times when I put my foot down and if I say something, then she tends to take it the wrong way, and it becomes me taking my son's side and turning him or ganging up with him against her, and how nobody says anything, nobody listens to anything she says, and we don't need her anymore, and we leave her out of everything, and we don't talk to her, and it's all of that. And to be honest, the other thing I wanted to say was I do worry about the toll that it takes on my son, because he's not the most social person. When he's home, he clings to me a lot, and he has a small circle of friends. But if I were to take him out with other people, and there are other teenagers there, or I say, hey, I want to take you to this place. They have a son that's about your age, try and interact. He always says, I don't want to. And he tends to stay quiet. So I feel like it's affected his social skills because he's become a bit introverted. He's an introverted extrovert.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not going to get better. Right? And this is an impressionable age. And throw a little COVID in there in a lockdown. It's tough. It's really tough trying to balance everything. I get it. Here we have the advantage of, the kids went back to school, and I'm not sure what the situation is there. My 14-year-old he locked himself in his room for basically a year and a half playing video games. All of his friends were inside of a box. And we just took that box as we moved up and down through California. All of his friends would just travel, and we'd unplug it, we'd plug his friends back in, and it happened. But
he loved lockdown though, my son.
Oh, mine too.
He loved it because he had me with him. He had me beside him every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hudson told Meredith, he told me something the other day, and he started high school 3 weeks ago. He's like, where's mom? He's like, oh, she's teaching yoga. He's like, I miss mom. Wow. He's like, but at least I know that she's doing something that she loves doing and it's important to her. I'm like, yeah. He's an only child, by the way, right? And I'm the stepdad. So those two are as thick as thieves, and these kids pick up on it, right? They really do. What we don't want to do is look back and say, I wish I had blank, particularly with our kids. And we forced him, quite frankly, to do an activity. You have to do one activity outside of school, like meaning he's not a sports kid either. Like he does not like playing, football or hockey or tennis or anything like that. Somehow he started wrestling, but what his biological father did over the summer, and they've had a strained relationship at best. He hadn't seen his dad in almost 2 years. Is he forced him to go get a job in Chicago when they were there as a summer camp counselor. So he had to go to work every day, and he had jobs to do. And he and I don't want to get too much into it, but I'd love to get into it, but not in a public forum. In that he got up every morning, he had to go walk their dog, pick up the dog poop. And then he had to go take care of a bunch of kids at a summer camp in Chicago that he didn't know. And then he had to ride his stepbrother's bike back home, right, and do all the things. So that forced him to grow up. The kid that came back from Chicago had probably aged 2 to 3 years in terms of his maturity level. And he's like a brand new kid in how he carries himself. But we had to force him to do an activity here, in LA, whether he liked it or not. You're going to go do it. And it's hard, like, to see him, like, the first week or two, he's struggling and he's got a coach all of a sudden. He's like, well, the coach is telling him to effing figure it out. Like, fucking figure it out. And that's what he's got to do. Right. And that's life. That's you're going to have people that you don't get along with, and you're going to have to interact with folks that are bullies or temperamental. That doesn't change. We all have jobs. We know what that's like, right? The same personalities that existed in elementary school and middle school exist today. We have to get these kids out, particularly now, interacting and way out of their comfort zone. Way, way, way out. It's hard as a parent to sit there and then to subsequently watch them struggle or have interpersonal relationships that are difficult to navigate, and to do things where they feel like they've been abandoned by us or thrown to the wolves. But as parents, particularly now, we have a responsibility to get our children out into the world and part of community, and to begin to reappreciate, or maybe even for the first time, that human to human interaction, and to learn what it's like to make friends and to deal with people that you don't necessarily have anything in common with, and to leave them at daycare by themselves. And I mean that with parents and with our kids, is you're going to have to go navigate it. When you come home, we're going to talk about it. Here's what we did well. Here's what we could do differently. But that's the type of parenting that I would argue that he's going to need. And that's not going to come from your mom. That's going to come from you. In 3 years, roughly 4 years, he's out of the house, I'm guessing.
He has to go into the army
okay.
when he turns about 18.
Well, that's going to be a huge wake-up call if we don't start doing things now about working with authority figures and how to take commands from people that you may not agree with, right?
Oh, he will listen. He acts tough in front of me and in front of mom, but he's quite timid outside otherwise.
Yep. We have to take care of our kids.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take care of ourselves.
Interesting you bring all that up, Chris, because I had an idea. This was not an intuitive idea. I think it was this morning or yesterday or something. It was yesterday when we spoke. And I said, listen, why don't you send them over here to California for a semester in American school? And anyway, apparently with the government of Singapore, I don't think it will fly. However, it was an idea because I thought I know him, by the way, and I've known him since he was 5 years old, 4 years old. And he is a great kid, a fantastic kid.
Yeah.
Oh, he definitely is. And I think that he would definitely grow a lot by kind of getting out of the environment where he is and inserting himself into another kind of environment where he's got to learn how to walk by himself in a way. So I hope that for him as well. So I suggested that. And then if the government said yes, like if we get, I'm still trying to find something. I'm going to I really would love to have him as my pseudo son or nephew because I'm
and he'll have a pseudo brother in Hudson because they're the same age.
Yeah, we should put them together. We should get them together.
Oh yeah,
they're the same age and put them in wrestling together.
Okay, well, Natasha, we got it all figured out.
Oh, Shane likes boxing.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Good, you said his name too because I was like, I didn't even.
I know. I was like, it's instinct.
He likes boxing. Well, I mean, I think wrestling would be a great. I mean, he could box here too. There's a great place, but I'm excited because I think that would open his world and that would just be wonderful for him. Even without any environment where he usually is, like that doesn't matter at all. It has to do with his exposure to something very interesting and new.
Does he box?
He wants to. He's fairly out of shape. This one, he is.
Okay.
But he. I know his stepbrother recently got a pair of boxing gloves. I think they bought them both boxing gloves. So I think he's been play boxing. I did offer to. His father offered to let him take up boxing, but he said no, which I cannot kind of understand because most of his time is here.
There's no nose.
Why not?
He should go box.
No, as in he said no to his father.
I know.
I told him who I would be comfortable with him learning boxing with, but he is intimidated a bit. So he's like, no. But the person I would rather he learn from wants him to learn how to be more consistent with getting into shape first. He needs the discipline for that before he can get into any kind of boxing, because boxing requires a lot of discipline.
Amazing. Okay. The best thing that we did for Hudson when we long story short, we moved in the middle of the pandemic and it wasn't the grandest idea. But because Hudson was in his room on his box so often, it's like, I need to get him out of the house to go do something. And one thing he would do here and now would be CrossFit classes. He'd go to like a kid's CrossFit class on a Saturday. And he has like ADHD, and he was a hot mess whenever we get this kid to go do karate. Like, maybe this isn't for him. So like the feedback we get from other grownups was like it was always kind, but it was like not in our class. But what we ended up doing is I had this notion and found this guy that owned a CrossFit gym in San Luis Obispo. And I was like, Hudson, I told Meredith, I was like, Hudson is going to do so much better responding to another adult than he would to me or to you. So he didn't want to go. We dropped him off. And rather than putting him in a class where he would have felt very intimidated, right? Because then all these other people know how to like do these moves and they're throwing weights over or whatever. So let's do one-on-ones. And let's find the right person who can actually help support Hudson. And so Meredith took him there and brought him back. And the kid walked in the house like his balls dropped like 9 inches. But like the physiological response to him, like moving his body and developing some confidence and hanging out with like a grown man that wasn't his dad or his stepdad, was huge. So that seed that was planted a year ago is now manifest today. And now he's he's part of the wrestling team. I'm like, all right, like I don't know nothing about any of that. He's never played an organized sport for longer than a season, but he loves it. Outsource this to someone else. Put him in the hands of the person that you think would be the right approach, who's going to be a little bit tough on him, but supportive. This is a part of your life that you can outsource, because he's going to respond better to a third party than he would if he can tell you no. And you're like, okay, this could be one of the best things that you do for him, particularly if he's expressed an interest in it and say, I signed you up. It's not a class, like meaning you're not going with 20 other kids and they're going to be better than you. It's one-on-one, and we're going to do this for a month, or we're going to do this for a week. I bought 3 classes or whatever it might be. And then tell the coach or tell the trainer what the situation is and what you're hoping to get out of it. It's less about boxing and more about giving him the tools to feel good about himself.
I would like to interject, because the trainer that you're speaking about, first of all, is it who I think it is?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. He's. But, okay. So nothing against him. I disagree with the approach that he has to be in shape in order to box, because then he's already losing. But if you get him in there, I can go in there at my size and just start boxing and hitting a bag, and go out being like, yeah, I dare somebody to come up to me.
100%.
Like, I will feel that immediately, and it doesn't matter your size. So I think he should just go to his first lesson where they only box and if there's weight to come off, the weight will come off. And otherwise he'll be in the heavyweights. It's fine.
Yeah. And especially at that age, it melts off. Right. And just to go from not moving to moving alone is huge. But I went through the exact same thing, Natasha, with Hudson.
Mm-hmm. I think I know who.
Oh, wow.
I can ask that person to send me to another person.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I think you should be boxing right out of the gate, because you're going to see an instant change where it's like, oh, I can be a boxer. I'm enough already. This is great. So,
and then his balls are going to drop and you're going to think of this conversation and be like, ha.
That would be good. But I just want him to, Christina knows I'm protective, but not as protective as, I'm not as protective as my mom. So I'm more of the kind that certain things you need to go out and you need to do, and you need to make mistakes and you need to deal with the consequences, because that's the only way you're going to learn. I can't do everything for you, because if I'm not around, then what are you going to do?
Right.
So I want him to go out there and actually, I think there are a few people that I can ask that person to direct me to and see if that would work.
Side benefit. This is going to give you a little bit more time for yourself.
I don't know if I should say this on air, but I have to admit, when he goes away to his dad's for the weekend, a tiny part of me does a little happy dance.
Yeah, of course. That's natural.
Yeah, that's very natural. You are a single parent to two.
Yeah.
Yes. To two.
At least no one's in diapers right now.
And so, like, yeah, one of them's gone. Heck yeah, you're going to jump on the bed. You see all those first day of school pictures of moms like jumping for joy in the back where their kids are like, like they love their kids, but they also love when they go away for a little bit. And that's very natural. So you shouldn't feel guilty about that. But I'm going to say something, stubborn lady, because she is very protective. Her heart's in the right place. Boxing is for him. No one goes to watch him. Your mom does not sit there. Good. Your mom does not sit there. You don't sit there. You don't watch. You guys don't fight over if his water bottle is cold enough for him. I've heard that argument from you guys.
Woman, the last time you saw him, he was like 5. He used to go to the gym with me, and his 1 hour of training was his 1 hour of training. I just sit down and be on my phone or watching something. Go get your bottle yourself. Go get the towel yourself. Go do whatever you need to do. Don't ask me for help.
And when the matches come, if he is ever like in a match or something where people are invited to spectate, that's when everybody goes and nobody criticizes. Nobody says anything to him. Nobody suddenly is the expert about boxing, because Shane should shut that down and say, this is mine. You guys have no idea what you're talking about. So be quiet. I hope that happens.
Oh, I know how to be quiet. It's not me you have to worry about.
Oh, I know. What I'm saying is that everyone becomes the expert with him, and suddenly. So
should be his thing.
Yeah.
Well, we've given you some ideas on ways to create space for yourself and to slow your breathing and start inspiring yourself. What you do is up to you, and there's no right or wrong.
Got it.
Well, I want to say thank you for coming on here. I know that was a big ask, because you would rather be kind of in the back, just waiting for me to come back there with you. But here you are in the front along with me on a stage. And I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, anything for you.
Aww.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah.
You're going to send me a whole bunch of emojis again, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. You're going to pay for that.
Amazing. Thanks, Natasha. Thanks, Christina.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Natasha. Bye.
Bye.